We usually think of the large intestine as just, well, a mere biological waste chute, something we'd really rather not talk about. But in this explainer, we're going to flip that entirely on its head and look at it for what it truly is, a brilliant, highly specialized recycling facility. It's an absolute marvel of biological engineering. And honestly, by the time we wrap up here, you're going to have a whole new appreciation for the absolute heavy lifting this organ meticulously performs for us every single day.
Just think about it for a second. You eat a meal, right? Your stomach breaks it down with these powerful acids. Your small intestine diligently absorbs all the proteins, the fats, the essential nutrients. But what happens to the food residue after all those nutrients are completely gone? Like, what exactly goes down when that exhausted, watery slurry finally hits the doorway to the lower digestive tract? That little anatomical doorway known as the ileocecal valve. Well, that is exactly where the magic of water reclamation and final processing actually begins.
Okay, let's dive right into this and meet the large intestine.
To really grasp why this organ matters right out of the gate, we've got to look at its core job description. It basically holds three massive responsibilities to keep you functioning optimally. First up, it absorbs water and electrolytes. This is absolutely crucial, because without it, you'd instantly become severely dehydrated. Second, it absorbs vital vitamins, vitamins that are actually produced locally by bacteria right inside the organ itself. And third, it oversees the careful formation and excretion of feces. Basically, it takes this liquid mess and meticulously extracts every last drop of physiological value before packaging the rest up for final disposal.
Let's move to and see how this builds geographically. Food materials first enter this pouch called the cecum, which sits right near the appendix. And quick side note, our sources point out the appendix isn't useless. It's actually this winding, blind tube packed with lymphoid tissue and bacteria, so it serves a really important immune function. Anyway, from the cecum, the material travels up the ascending colon on your right side, shoots straight across your abdomen through the transverse colon, drops down the descending colon on your left side, and finally settles into the S-shaped sigmoid colon. It's kind of like a highly regulated scenic route right through your abdomen.
Moving on to section 2, let's see how this thing is actually built for the job.
There's a pretty dramatic physical contrast between your intestines. Your small intestine is absolutely covered in these tiny finger-like projections called villi, right? They're designed to maximize surface area to absorb nutrients. But the large intestine? No villi, like none whatsoever, no circular folds at all. Instead, it relies on these deep microscopic pockets called intestinal crypts. And here's the crazy anatomical reality. The large intestine produces absolutely zero digestive enzymes of its own, literally none. Those crypts are mostly just there to pump out a steady stream of mucus, just to keep things lubricated and moving smoothly down the line.
Now, if you've ever seen a medical diagram, you know the colon looks like this bunched up, bumpy, segmented tube. And the reason it looks like that? Haustra. See, unlike the rest of your gut, the longitudinal muscle layer on the colon doesn't actually wrap all the way around its diameter. Instead, it exists as three distinct ribbon-like bands running down its length. When these bands contract, these tonic contractions, they basically bunch the colon up into these distinct pouches, which are the haustra. Think of it like, well, imagine pulling the drawstring super tight on a pair of sweatpants. That is exactly how your colon gets its iconic segmented shape.
Section 3. Let's talk about your bacterial factory.
Remember how we just said the colon lacks its own digestive enzymes? Well, that doesn't mean chemical digestion just stops. Not at all. It just means the job is entirely outsourced to your bacterial flora. You have literally billions upon billions of microbes living in your gut. To put that into perspective, it's this bustling, microscopic ecosystem operating constantly in the background. They are, for all intents and purposes, a massive, tireless factory doing the incredibly complex biochemical heavy lifting that your human cells just can't pull off on their own.
So let's look closer at what this bacterial workforce is actually doing for you. These microbes ferment the really tough stuff, things like cellulose and undigested carbs that your stomach just couldn't handle. And during this intense fermentation process, they manufacture vitamins. The big one here is vitamin K. This is a real game changer because a typical human diet just doesn't give us enough vitamin K for our body's blood clotting needs. We literally depend on these resident bacteria to synthesize it for us. Oh, and yes, as a natural byproduct of all this intense fermentation, they release gases. Yep, those are the very relatable expelled gases we all deal with. It's not a flaw, folks. It's literally just the sound of your internal factory working exactly as intended.
And this brilliantly illustrates how, during its long passage, the residue transforms completely. Feces aren't just leftover food, it's a highly complex composite. The final product is made up of undigested materials, sure, but also a massive amount of bacteria, along with dead epithelial cells that have shed directly from your own intestinal lining. It's this complex, living biological mix that's entirely distinct from whatever you initially consumed. The large intestine has fundamentally repurposed the waste.
All right, on to Section 4, the rhythms of digestion. The colon is absolutely not just some static pipe. It's dynamically pulsing and constantly adjusting its rhythm. Our sources highlight 3 main types of motility here. First up, haustral contractions. Every 30 minutes or so, a pouch distends, squeezes for about a minute, and meticulously mixes the contents to promote optimal water absorption. Second, we have antiperistaltic contractions. Actually, scratch that image of things just moving down. These contractions actively move things backwards slightly toward the start of the colon to intentionally slow down the passage. But the real stars of the show? The colonic mass movements. These are these incredibly strong, sweeping, muscular waves traveling from the middle of the colon all the way down to the end. They happen maybe up to 4 times a day and powerfully, purposefully push that residue forward toward the exit.
Okay, have you ever wondered why you often get that sudden urge to use the restroom right after eating a really big meal? Well, it's not because the food you just ate traveled through your 20-foot digestive tract at warp speed. No way. It's entirely due to the gastrocolic reflex. When your stomach stretches from a newly consumed meal, it triggers this neurological reflex that instantly increases your colon's motility, causing those massive sweeping waves we just talked about. It's basically your body's incredibly efficient, automated way of clearing out the old inventory to make room for the new.
But as you can probably guess, the speed of this motility is a super delicate balancing act. If the colon's motility is slower than usual, or if defecation gets delayed for an extended period, the large intestine just stubbornly keeps doing its primary job, absorbing water. Too much water absorbed, you get a hard, dry residue, which means constipation. On the flip side, if the passage is moving way too fast, the colon simply doesn't have enough time to extract that moisture. That leaves the residue liquid, resulting in diarrhea. So it's this incredibly intricate process, governed almost entirely by the timing and the rhythm of the organ.
Which brings us to Section 5, the art of the exit.
So, the crucial point is how brilliantly engineered this final neurological sequence really is. When those mass movements finally fill the rectum with feces, stretch receptors in the rectal wall instantly fire off. They shoot impulses straight up to the sacral region of the spinal cord. And then, in this totally involuntary parasympathetic response, signals come right back down, promoting rectal peristalsis and relaxing your internal anal sphincter. You absolutely cannot control that part. That's what actually causes the distinct urge to go. But, and here is the absolute genius design of the human body. Defecation can only happen when the external anal sphincter, which is completely under your voluntary control, also opens. This dual sphincter system is what allows you the social grace of delaying the whole shebang until, an appropriate time.
So it leaves us with a pretty compelling question to ponder, doesn't it? How much do we completely take our microscopic bacterial workforce, our incredibly precise water absorption system, and our dual sphincter control mechanisms for granted every single day? The large intestine is not just some simple disposal tube. It's a finely tuned, highly collaborative ecosystem that's keeping us alive, keeping us nourished with vital vitamins, and functioning gracefully in society. So the next time your stomach rumbles, maybe give a little mental thanks to the amazing biological machinery doing the vital, dirty work entirely behind the scenes.